Jews in the slave trade. What prompted me to do this video was that there's a play that's showing nearby called The Whipping Boy about a Jewish Confederate soldier who returns after the war to his home where his family had had slaves, and his interaction with two former slaves. I didn't see it, and I've had a few people tell me that they enjoyed it, but what really prompted me to do this was how I know how these things are used. And there's this anti-Semitic canard out there that Jews were big in the slave trade, which is a complete and total lie. Several scholarly works have published to refute and rebut the anti-Semitic canard of Jewish domination in the slave trade. In fact, mainland colonial Jews played a minute role in the importation of slaves from Africa and the Caribbean, and were marginal roles as slave sellers. Jason Silverman, a historian of slavery, describes the part of Jews in the slave trade as minuscule, and writes the historical rise and fall of slavery in the U.S. would not have been affected at all if there had been no Jews living in the South. Of course, living now, we say any involvement with Jews in the slave trade is abominable, but to say that Jews were significantly involved is ridiculous. It was a minuscule relationship of Jews in the South to the slave trade. Whereas Arab traders were responsible for 10 to 18 million slaves importing to the U.S. and to other areas, and were very active in the slave trade. And there's, of course, the Gentiles in the South who were the primary plantation owners. So what disturbs me about this play, The Whipping Boy, is the sense people will get without context of how Jews played such a minuscule role, and how anti-Semites through the ages have especially tried to portray Jews as significantly involved in the slave trade. And it boggles the mind that African Americans could be moving towards Islam, which was intrinsically intertwined with the Arab traders in stealing blacks off the continent of Africa and bringing them to the Western world as slaves. In fact, when you think about it, the only blacks ever taken off the continent of Africa for freedom were the Israelis, who took the Ethiopian Jews off to save their lives and bring them to Israel. And so I think this is something that has to be dealt with squarely. It's another anti-Semitic bogus charge affecting Jews. And it bothers me that plays like The Whipping Boy might be giving the wrong impression when the Jews were minusculely involved. Whatever amount were involved, it's when we look at it now, we say it was terrible, and they shouldn't have been, but they played a minuscule role in that abominable, horrible aspect of world history.